Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning at the Ascmv meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you all would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Becky, I would ask that we determine we have a quorum.
Board Member Ward.
Present.
Board Member Enriquez.
Present.
Board Member Macias. Board Member Flores is absent. Board Member Ellens is absent. Board Member Gondara.
Here.
Board Member Sanchez is absent. And Chair Corin.
Here. Thank you.
Yes.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Thank you very much, Becky. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, and I would propose one minor change to shift the Coalition for Pets and People report to the end of the committee reports. So number 5A shifted to 5D functionally. So I would entertain a motion with that friendly amendment.
So moved with the changes that Chair Curran has indicated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second? From anyone? Can people second?
Yes.
Please.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you need a third, I'll throw it in as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If we can call the vote, please.
Yes. Board Member Ward.
Yes.
Board Member Enriquez.
Yes.
Board Member Macias.
Yes.
Board Member Gondara.
Yes.
Chair Corin.
Yes. The agenda is approved as amended. And then before you in your packet, we also have the minutes from the August 25th meeting. I hope that you've had a chance to look those over, and after having done so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of August of 2022.
Second, Gandara.
Thank you. It was moved by Board Member Macias and seconded by Board Member Gandara. Any amendments? Hearing none. Becky, if we could please.
Board Member Ward.
Yes.
Board Member Macias.
Yes.
Board Member Enriquez.
Yes.
Board Member Gondara.
Yes.
Chair Corin.
Yes. Thank you. The minutes to the August 25th meeting have been approved. Next up, we have the reports and presentations. So we'll hear from the city and county ACOs first, please. City, whichever you guys decide. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Halsey. I'm the caseworker for Donana County Animal Control. I'm now be giving the August 2022 monthly report. For our reported strays for August, we had 293 reported stray animals. Out of those animals, we picked up 234 strays. Out of those, 94 were cats, 140 were stray dogs. We had 17 sick or injured animals in the month of August. We had 10 cats and 7 dogs, and we had 14 owner-surrendered dogs. This is our reported stray animal call 4-year comparison chart. And as you can see, August was a little bit higher. In most months, August usually is one of our higher months because it's getting towards the tail end of the breeding seasons and everything for the cats, so we usually end up picking up a lot more cats. This is our 4-year RTO or field return to owner comparison chart. For the month of August of 2022, we had 16. For additional animals picked up, again, we had no owner-surrendered cats. We had 14 owner-surrendered dogs. We had 17 sick or injured animals. We had 1 welfare hold, and that's, again, if a sheriff unit or state police, they go and pick up a cat or go pick up a person and they have a cat or a dog inside the vehicle, we usually go and pick up the cat or dog and take it as a welfare hold. We had 9 shelter quarantines. We had 0 neglect. We had 2 home quarantines. We had 2 cases that are being held at our court hold for either quarantine or for a vicious or a livestock attack. Currently, we have 8 animals being held in our live evidence facility, awaiting for court or anything along those lines. And we had 1 rabies submission that turned to be negative. These are our districts for the county. And these are our cats and dogs picked up per district. In District 1, we had 7 dogs. In District 2, we had 28 cats and 24 dogs. In District 3, we had 7 cats and 27 dogs. District 4 was our high one. Again, it was people started to trap cats again in District 4. A couple months prior, we had a very big spike in that, and then it kind of went down. Now they're starting to trap again. So we had 66, most of those were cats. District 5, we had 14. District 6, we had 17, and District 7, for some reason, we saw a spike in a lot of stray dogs, and so we were had a lot in that area. These are stray cats picked up by district for the year. These are our stray dogs. Again, you can see that big spike in District 7 for all the stray dogs that we were able to pick up in August. And these are reasons of release of ownership. We had 5 that the people just weren't able to take care of them. We had 2 that were livestock or vicious attacks. We had 2 that were just old and they requested for euthanasia. I believe one of them was sick at the time as well. This is a new one for most people. We had 4 that were transported for Hatch. So we have a contract with Hatch. Sometimes they have us go and pick up some of their dogs. In this case, it was for owner releases that they had for us to pick up for them. And we had 1 that was aggressive. One other thing for our vicious for this, or for August as well, was the vicious dogs were attacking other dogs of the same owner, so they just wanted to get rid of the vicious one. And for that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? No questions, thank you. And if we could also let the record reflect that Board Member Flores has joined us, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, board members. Lieutenant Joy Wiedela for the record. And I will have our city animal control report. I'm looking to how to make it bigger. There we go. Again, good morning. This is going to be the report for our August numbers. We had 505 reported stray animals for August of 2022. 275 were gone on arrival. 230 stray animals were apprehended. 197 strays were impounded at the shelter. That included 102 dogs and 95 cats. 33 were successfully field returns. 18 were unsuccessful attempted field returns that ended up being impounded at the shelter. That meant that there was a total of 51 identifiable stray animals. That number is from the successful and the unsuccessful attempts. Here are our numbers over the years for 2020, 2021, and 2022. You can see we are currently in the yellow, and so very similar numbers to last year in 2021 as far as reported strays. Again, here's your field return to owner comparison. Again, we are in the yellow for 2022. As you can see, compared to 2021, we dipped down a bit, but it was very comparable to what we did back in 2020. Here's our community cat program. And again, this is something that we are tracking that is new since we've passed that community cat ordinance. 2022, it shows the cat and trap calls. So for August of this year, we had 39. Of that, there were 8 that were already part of that community cat program and they were released. Obviously, the goal here would be to see these numbers reversing in the future. Here are our reasons for the owners releasing their animals. We had 7 in reference to dogs that were aggression towards people and or others or pets. 1 was towards a child, 1 was towards the owner. 1 actually bit the child in the face. 3 dogs where the owners no longer can afford to have them. 2 dogs where the new landlord does not allow the dogs. 2 dogs where there are court orders to be removed from the home. 1 that was a dog that was injured, 1 because the dog was old, 1 because the dog was damaging property and escaping, 1 was a cat owner moving across the country and did not want to put the cat through the excessive travel, another 1 was a cat owner and was moving and could not take the cat with them. Here are those reasons why we were unable to field return to owners when the animal control officer was in the field. 8 were no contact by phone or at the residence. In this kind of circumstance, a lot of times it can be the animal control officer trying to reach them late at night, and if we're not able to reach them late at night, we have to take them to the shelter. 7, the chip was not up to date. 1, the owner was visiting in Mexico. Another one where the owner lived in El Paso and could not pick up the animal. Another one where the owner stated that they could pick it up later from the shelter. And that is the report. Any questions?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any questions from the board? None? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Next up, we'll hear from Clint. Thanks for the shelter statistics.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board. Clint Thacker, Executive Director at the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. Again, I'd like to give a special thank you to Bernice Navarro for preparing this. She needs to get extra credit because I have been home ill Monday and Tuesday and half of Wednesday, and so she was putting all this together on her own, so I really appreciate her doing that. Her services are invaluable to me. These numbers are from our August. Currently at the center, however, there's 521 animals at the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. Intake, we had a huge spike in animal intake, 886 animals, 473 dogs, 407 cats. We know that August is a high month anyways, but this was a surprise, but boy did we feel it. August was a hard month. We did our best to keep animals moving through the center and with a live outcome. Some returns of adoptions that we had, 5 dogs and 4 cats. As you look at those reasons, just know that we always ask why, and then we present offerings for them. We partner with the Doña Ana County Humane Society, the Rough to Ready program it's called. So on behavior issues, Doña Ana County Humane Society actually pays for a behaviorist to come to their home for 1 session, and they can help them with any of the problems they have. Some people do, as I reported last time, they do take advantage of that. And they do a fantastic job. The trainer that they have goes into their home and tells them what needs to change, and some of them do make those changes. However, as you know, when somebody's fed up with something and done, they're done. So those are those numbers for the returns there. And it looks like the dog's allergic to humans there. I'd be too. Diverted intakes, 267. This question came up in a board meeting one time, so we included this slide. We're gonna, once we get enough data for several months, we're gonna be putting on a graph so you can see if it goes up or down. Diverted intake is anything where our staff does something to divert the animal from coming into the center. So it could be somebody says, I found this dog, we scan a microchip, and has an owner, we contact, they come and get it. It's boom, it's diverted. Or they come to owner surrender an animal, and we say, here's some resources for you. We ask that you contact them first. And so they call those, and they said, oh, I found a rescue that can take the animal. So another one, that's diverted. So 267 animals were diverted by our front staff and others. We ended the August with a 73.3% live release rate. And when you consider the numbers of animals that we had coming in, that is a phenomenal live release rate, higher than last year, 2021, which had a significant lower intake number. 26% of the outcomes were adoptions, 10% were reclaims, 21% were rescues, community cats were 18%, and euthanasia, euthanasia was 28% with 247. So that's 73.3% live release rate. Live release rate is animals that left the facility alive, that came in. These are our rescue partners that we went with in August that took animals from us. So they altogether took 192. We thank each and every one of those. Locally, Action Program for Animals, Broken Promises, Cherished Canines. I know there's others on there, but all of our local rescues do phenomenal work in taking dogs from us, and we appreciate each and every one of what they do. We did have to travel a little bit further this time. We made some trips to Denver. We made some trips to Tucson, but it was worth having those animals leave the center alive into new homes that love and cherish them. So a total of 192. The breakdown's 138 dogs and 53 cats. Here's our euthanasia reasons. Our number one euthanasia reasons for dogs is still medical. And you see there it says space medical. So remember, when we do need to make space, we're not euthanizing healthy animals for space. Our first thing we look at is medical reasons. So that's why it says medical space. We looked at them specifically to make space, but they do have medical reasons for that. The highest for cats is failure to thrive. This is generally for kittens when they come in. And these kittens, we get high numbers of them this time of year, and they just do have a failure to thrive, so they are euthanized. The next highest for the dogs is behavior aggressive. So those are the two most common for the dogs. And the next, it looks like it would be respiratory for cats. I believe this time of year, those two reasons are exactly spot on with the high number of animals in the center and the respiratory signs and the respiratory issues. I believe that is concurrent to what we're seeing. Our surgeries continue to do an incredible amount of work. Trap, neuter, return surgeries did 146, adoptions 158, shelter, foster 57, and other is 80. 441 surgeries in the month of August is phenomenal. If you've ever been to the Animal Service Center, you know that there's one room, one veterinarian working at one time with 4 individuals prepping the animal. They're prepping it, moving animals back and forth, and then doing recovery in the area. They are working all the time, and we appreciate all that they do. Phenomenal numbers from a small, dedicated team. Just so you know, other, excuse me, other is like somebody comes and reclaims their animal, return to owner, and they said they would like it, the animal sterilized. So we allow that, and we will do that. There's also, if a individual goes through SNAP, the program, SNAP program, then we also sterilize for that too. So those are an example of some of the others that we have. Other surgeries may be amputations or fixing with a surgery or with a sterilization, complications, etc. Total visitors, 1,909 to the Ascmv last month. This is a slide showing that we had 113 appointments for adoptions. And you see that 66% of those 113 ended in adoptions. So that's a great number, over half. 66% of the 113 resulted in adoptions for appointments. And when you look at our walk-in, so 408 individuals came into the center and signed the sheet and checked the box that says, "I'm here to adopt." And they walk in fully expecting to adopt. Well, 26% of those ended in adoption. So we still see that the appointment-based is still a higher percentage, but we're still moving animals with the walk-in method as well. Volunteers are doing an incredible amount of work, 846 hours of volunteer time that was dedicated to us. 75 on the walking team. Did an amazing job this time getting through events and getting the dogs walked. Our website had 40,390 views. Just to remember, a view is each page, not just a new hit. So if they're looking at a dog and they go back and browse the dogs and they click on another dog, so that would be two views there. And Facebook stayed pretty much the same with the 4,435. I know that we were heavily present on our Facebook page this last month because of our best friends and also working with Doña County Humane Society, and we had several events going on via Facebook. And here's Devin and Guido, our pets of the week. They can entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Director Thacker. Any questions from the board members? No? Board Member Flores, please.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you, Clint, for all your work, and Bernice. Yes, you deserve a raise. I hereby grant you a raise. No, but thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. Thank you, Clint. Also, Becky, if we can please note that Board Member Sanchez has joined us, please. Thank you. Next up, we're going to hear from committee reports, and I think we were starting off with the Finance Committee, and there are a few items to cover under that, so please come on up.
Good morning, Chair and board members. Yeah, we had a Finance Committee last Thursday, and we went over the financials. There was no real significant issues, in which Mr. Lerma will come out today and present the financials. And then after he's done, I'd like to ask Leanne DeMouche to come up. She has a recommendation for the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lerma, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Armando Lerma, accountant with the Finance Department, and I'll be presenting the monthly financials for the period ending August of 2022. Okay, we'll start with the statement of net position. We had a cash balance of $1,208,651, which makes up our total assets. Liabilities, we had a balance of $114,561. Revenue collected in advance, $275,540, which leaves us an unassigned fund balance of $818,550. Okay, next we have our change in net position. Total revenues through August are $979,175. And total expenditures are $462,299, which equals a positive net change of $516,876. Okay, next we have our change in net position, budget to actual. Same numbers as the previous slide, just as they compare to budget. So this being the second month of the year, our budget parameter is 16.7%. Total revenues are at 23.4% of budget. And total expenditures are 11.5% of budget. So well under that budget parameter. Okay, next is our revenues and expenditures per month. We could see our revenues decreased quite a bit from $720,000 to $259,000. The biggest reason for that is the way the city and the county contribute to the Animal Service Center. The initial month, they make a 22% contribution of the total budget, and then the remaining balance is paid out, evenly over the remaining 11 months. So, going forward, we can expect to see a more consistent revenue. And then expenses increased $138,000 to $324,000. The biggest reason for that increase was salaries, and that's due to the way we do the accrual for the fiscal year 2022. So in July, that payroll, the first payroll in July, the pay period, some of that includes June. So we incorporate that amount into our June financials, which brings down the July amount. So that's the main reason for our salaries being so low in July. Okay. Next, we have a percentage of total expenditures. So total expenditures are $462,299. Of that, salary was 52%, benefits 18%, temporary services 3%, repairs and maintenance 0.3%, services 15%, supplies 3%, insurance 8%, and other of 1%. Okay, and I will now stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Armando. Is the cat's name Binks or
I had
Guido?
that same question. This is the one that I got.
That's the one. That's the one that we had for the city, and Binks seemed appropriate for the relaunch of Hocus Pocus, but now I'm not sure. But either way, an adorable black cat, I think. So, any questions from the board? Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for your presentation. On the prior page, page 6, year-to-date expenditures, you have the percentages of what it's gone to date, but what is the percentage of $462,299 of the entire annual budget? Do you know? I mean, do you do that?
That's gonna be.
It should be 1/12, right? Or 2/12?
Yeah, it's that 11.5% amount.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. Other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Lemma. I would like to invite Mr. Mush to come up and give us some insight, please. Thank you.
Chairman, board chairs, this is just a recommendation to the board. It's something that we in the financial services have discussed this. As you know, for Animal Service Center, we're the fiscal agent. And so we just have
Could you state your name for the record,
I'm sorry.
please?
For the record, my name's Leanne Demush, and I'm the finance director for the city of Las Cruces. So we have a very short presentation. Again, this is just a finance recommendation. One of the recommendations that we would like to make to the board is the consideration of going back to a reserve. It is not a requirement for the fiscal agent. However, this is something that they had prior to 2019, and I think some of you that have been on this board for a while, I want to say Councilor Gondeta, when I went back in the minutes, I saw your name in there in the minutes, because I did go back to this particular resolution, which was in 2019, which is 2019-09, and there was a recommendation to remove the reserve, the 1/12. And as you can see, the 1/12 is on the expenditures. We as a city, the city of Las Cruces, and also the county are required by the state to have a reserve. And we would like to make this recommendation and go back possibly to this reserve for the Animal Service Center. One of the reasons that we would like to see an adoption of a 1/12 reserve is because, of course, this is best practices. The GFOA, which is our Government Finance Officers Association, recommends this 1/12 reserve because it maintains the adequate levels of funding balance to mitigate any current or future risk the Animal Service Center may have. It also replenishes the fund balance within 1 or 3 years of use. And as you notice from Mr. Lerma's, the fund balance currently is only $301,000. It has also been more than 3 years since we adopted this in 2019, so that we've used those reserves. I think at the time, that when I went back into the minutes to see why this policy was adopted, it was because of the fund balance being needed for, the expenditures at that time. And so we just would like the recommendation of just for the board to consider going back to the 1/12. The 1/12 reserve, just to let you know, it's only 1 month of expenditures. So that way, if something happened, they would have 1 month, of fixed costs that they could pay. It also mitigates the risk of any audit findings. Currently, the New Mexico State Auditor 2.2.2.10, if you have budgeted expenditures or more than the budgeted reserve, and currently the Animal Service Center expenditures are higher than the revenue, then the prior year cash should cover the deficit, and it currently does. But if we could have that reserve 1/12, then we know that this possibility of not having an audit finding would really help in the future. Just to give you an idea, this is the same numbers that you just recently saw. What we are showing you, as you see, the beginning balance is $301,000. The revenues currently that are budgeted are about 4.1, and the expenditures are about 4.3, as you can see. There is a resolution going forward to you of a transfer from their operating to their capital, and that resolution will be later on. So that gives them an ending balance of $144,000. The 1/12 reserve requirement would be that they would need to have $357,000 for that reserve right now. Reserves, we find them with the city that they're really critical for financial planning. We actually, with the city, adopted another 1/12, so we're required, local and the state, to have 2/12s. We find that to really help with risk mitigation. It protects us from reducing our service levels, just like that's what we want to acquire for the Animal Service Center. And also it helps with raising fees, and then hopefully meeting operating needs and meeting future needs. And with that, myself, and of course, I have the accounting staff here if you have any questions. And of course, this is only a recommendation from us to the board. So it might be something future and later that you might want to discuss. But we wanted to bring this forward to you. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I would entertain questions from the board specific to this, and then we can talk about what the next steps might be. Please, Board Member Macias.
Do you have the ending balances of the budget for the last 3 fiscal years for the Animal Services Center?
Board Chair, Board Macias, I do not have that in front of me, sir, but I can get that to you, hopefully by tomorrow. We can pull that information for you.
Are you aware whether there were balances or not at the end of the
Yes, sir,
fiscal
there
year?
were balances at that time.
And would the balance have covered the 1/12 requirement?
I think, and I'm going to ask my comptroller, no, sir, they wouldn't have. I was pretty sure that that was the answer, but I was going to ask her to come up because she knows those numbers. This is my comptroller, Josie Trevino.
Good morning, Josie Trevino, Comptroller. No, the past 3 years did not. The reason we removed the fund policy reserve in 2019 was because we were not going to meet the 112. So prior to 2019, yes, they were meeting. We have not met 2019, 20, 21, 22. I'm sorry, 20, 21, 22, and as you're going to see a resolution come up, it'll be fiscal year 23. So prior to 2019, we would. After 2019, we did not.
Are you able to share the numbers?
Yes, we are. Not with me right now, but yes, we can share the numbers.
Do you have just a sense in terms of this last fiscal year, what the balance was as
Yes.
you closed the books out?
So fiscal year 22, as it shows here,
Was it the 144?
no, it's the 301. So these are unaudited because we're still working with fiscal year 22, but I don't see any changes going in after audit, so it is 301
So
currently,
you were
fiscal year 22.
Forgive me, Madam Chair. You were just short the 56,000. If your beginning balance is 301 and your reserve that you're looking for is the 357,
The reserve would be on the budgeted expenditures. So it would be 1/12 of your budget expenditures, so 4.2 times the 1/12 is the 357. And yes, we would be short the 56.
okay. Yes, so that would have been a yes. Okay. So again, the gap between the two isn't that much, at least for this last fiscal year. That's why I'd be interested in looking at the prior 2 fiscal years as well. And I understand the intent. I'm not opposed to the intent. I'm just trying to get a sense of where the potential exposure to the animal services operation is.
Thank you, Board Member
Thank you.
Macias.
Forgive me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Board Member Flores.
Turn off your light then. Thank you so much. My question is, if we had $301,674 at this point, just looking at what we have there, where are we going to get the money to have that 112 reserve? I mean, if it's not there, it's not there. So where does it come from if all that money has already been allocated or expended?
This is where planning comes in and where we start looking at our expenditures and our revenues if needed to get back to where we were.
So, well, yeah, that's a given. But what exactly is, well, I guess that's a budgetary item, or that's something that finance does, and as Leanne knows, I'm a total moron when it comes to numbers and stuff like that, but not entirely stupid. So my question remains, how are you just going to move numbers around, or what, how?
It does come through the budget and the planning.
Just planning?
Yes.
So then, does that mean then that certain budgetary items money is taken from those allocations or allocated expenditures, future expenditures?
So Board Chair, Board Member Flores, it could be a combination of different things. It could be that we could ask for an increase in the revenue again. We could also look at lowering some of his expenditures. It could be raising fees. It could be, as Ms. Trevino said, it's a mixture of planning, and that's something I think that the director in the Animal Service Center would need to get together and do that planning.
Okay, so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So does that mean that Clint, Bernice, well, Ms. Navarro and Mr. Thatcher will get together with your department, Leanne?
Madam Chair and Madam Chair Flores, we could work with them and work on that. If that is something that this board would like to adopt and to recommend going back to the 112th, or it could just, if the board decides that they don't want to adopt the 112th, we just keep going status quo with what it is right now.
So, Leanne or Mr. Bush, are you then going to, have you already met with Clint and Bernice or the powers that be?
Madam Chair, Chairman Flores, I know that the Budget Department has been meeting with him off and on. We have not sat down and I'll say like a work session or to look at, how he could be reducing his expenditures. It could be that maybe they need to come up with a long-term plan, like a 5-year financial plan. That might be something that we could sit down and work with them in conjunction. Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Trevino and Ms. Demush. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. Board Member Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mush, and I'm trying to get under at least a little bit of the historical understanding of why. I guess I'm taking a guess here. Understanding that they were not going to meet the 112th reserve in 2019, is that associated with the capital expenditures that began in 2019 and continue through this day? Because, I mean, we've had the renovations that went on at the Ascmv 2019, 2020, and then now you have the expansion going on. So I didn't know if that increase of budget because of the capital expenditures and that increase of the amount for the reserve, the necessary reserve, would have caused the board at that time. No.
So, Madam Chair, Chairman Sanchez, I do not believe, I don't want to say 100% with sure. It's a little difficult for me to even remember yesterday back into 2019, but I'm pretty sure that all of this was in operating, which is their operating budget, which is the 7440. All of the capital expenditures are in 7441, and that particular fund is doing okay. I also think at that time back in 2019, and I'm looking at Board Member Gondeta to see if she could help me remember, but I also think that at that time, and maybe even the year after that, which was 2020, we even forego, the city did, the administrative fees at that time as well, which I want to say were like probably about $80,000. And we foregoed even that and the 212s to help out on the budget and the expenditures for the operating fund.
Okay, and I'm just trying to get an idea because I was understanding, so the 112th is based off of the 7440, does not include the 7441? Okay.
That is correct.
All right. I appreciate that clarification, and that was going to be my question by next, because I was understanding if we try to plan and do this, any future steps, given where we're going in the future, how that would affect the numbers that we're looking at. But I think clarifying that it's only for 7440 makes a huge, helps me understand that better. So thank you so much, Mr. Mush, and appreciate that information. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Board Chair and board members, what we can do is we can get the numbers to you that Board Member Macias wanted. We'll get the 3 years to you. We can actually probably go back 5 years as well. And we also have a copy of that resolution, which is attached to it as an exhibit, which is the fund balance policy that was adopted at that time. So we'll hand that, we'll deliver that to Mr. Enriquez and he can send it out.
Thank you. So I just want to sum up what sort of is the proposal here or the idea, and then knowing that we have to have subsequent conversations. just to get a sense of what you all see. My sense is this is taking something that has been sort of in the general fund balance and making a specific budget item that would be less touchable, not touchable in this sense, that would be slightly more than it has been in the recent history, which would probably require some type of operational changes. And shifting to that budget model. So that just to clarify, if we passed a resolution to do that, that's what that would mean, correct?
Board Chair, that is correct.
Okay. And the positive outcomes of this include increased risk reduction, sort of risk mitigation. I don't know that we necessarily have a place to leverage fees necessarily in the Ascmv budget typically in terms of revenues, but I do wonder if we have things. I don't think we have significant debt service either that would benefit from increasing a reserve. So just to put some of the other things that might normally be benefits of having a 1/12, I don't know that things like bond ratings or anything like that are at play. So hearing all of those pros and cons and the ones that are at, what I'm looking toward the board to see, do you feel like this is something we should consider and have those conversations and work with Clint and the budget office to do
Madam
this?
Chair, if I can.
Please,
Thank
board
you.
member Candela.
Thank you, Mr. Moosh. I appreciate the presentation. Yeah, we definitely need to be fiscally responsible, and I think moving in this direction is at least to have the conversation is worthwhile. I like the idea of getting the numbers from 5 years and really looking at different things that have happened along the way. I think it's important, and as we continue to be prudent, especially that we're opening up a new facility, so I think we should move forward, but this should probably be a part of our strategic planning event that we have coming up. I don't know that we'll have a significant amount of time. I don't know what that agenda is going to look like, but it's something we should definitely talk about and moving forward. And maybe I would recommend a work session. And I'd like to hear from Clint about what he is, I noticed, I think it feels like it came as a surprise. And I want for Clint to come up and speak to what he's willing to do with his analyst moving forward, because I think that's important. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, could I just get one clarification?
Please.
Because I think we don't need to perhaps overcomplicate the issue. What we're looking for is a reserve of $357,000. And you know the city and the county budgets, the reserves are in the millions of dollars. And so yes, you can't spend in an emergency situation beyond a certain amount. You have to make sure that you have it there to continue operations for not an extended period of time, but in a transition period of time. So I want to make sure that the money that both the city and the county contribute that formulates the budget, the operational budget, is it at the end of the fiscal year, those monies don't revert back to the city or the county, they stay with the Animal Services Center, is that correct? And that's technically what your beginning balance is. But then your beginning balance, you get, I think both the city and the county are contributing at this point $1.7 something million. So technically, then you have that additional $300,000 as part of that year's budget. Why not just reduce it, the balance down to $200,000 over the course of 2 years to make up $400,000 and just move it into a reserve account? Because you're starting out, I think what confuses people a little bit is that we think, well, we're putting in 1.7 million each year, and that's what they're operating on. But they're operating on that 1.7 million times 2, plus the reserve from the year before. That's why I wanted to see a couple of years worth of reserves, because couldn't we just authorize that some of that beginning balance actually be pushed into a reserve account, so that you're basically operating in that $300,000 to $400,000 range of money that is there in reserve and not part of the operating budget. And yes, it may mean some belt tightening, but it could be really almost as simple as that. Because all you're looking for is to maintain that $350,000 to $400,000 reserve. And so if it's in a separate account that isn't touched during the course of the year and it remains there, haven't we resolved the issue relatively simply?
We use the 112 reserve just as with the city, but yes, there is other options, and that would be one of the options. So this is where we would start conversating to see how we get to a reserve. We just recommended 112, and this came up just when we saw these actually yesterday, the budget that is coming forward, that we do see that we're now starting to use fund balance. We're used to seeing a budget balance with animal services, and as you're gonna see with one of the resolutions, we're actually starting to use a fund balance. So this actually was something that we did see yesterday and say we need to start doing something and not be at the end of the year where we were in 2019 and we had to do something last minute. So what we were able to do in 2019 was let's remove the fund balance policy at that time so we would be able to meet our year end. Right now we're being proactive and starting before we do get at the end of the year, and we're like, how do we get out of here? So yes, there's more than just doing the 112, and that is one option. So this is where we do need to start talking.
And Madam Chair, if I understood some of the comments that were made, one of the other things to consider, if you're having to use the previous year's fund balance at the beginning of the following fiscal year, perhaps one issue, rather than just contributing 22% of the contribution from each of the city and the county, that we up that contribution to 30%. Right from the very beginning, so that there isn't the need to technically be using the balance from the prior fiscal year. So again, I don't want to overcomplicate the issue. I think it's a good policy to always make sure that you have a reserve. And if we look at this as a distinct operation from the city and the county, then perhaps they should have their 112. Obviously, the city and the county have, at least today, thankfully, substantial reserves.
Thank you. So I think hearing your comments and Board Member Gandara's comments, it does seem like something that is relevant this year, but definitely needs to be part of a future planning process. And so I know we have a strategic planning session set up for the November 30th, or a planning and information session. I'm hoping that we might be able to do I'm hoping that, Clint, you can work with the management analysts to sort of come up with some models for what this would look like, because my sense is that it does have the carryover that exists represents some unfilled positions, I believe, and so I'm not sure. So I think figuring out what that would mean in terms of changes and how to plan for that would be, I think, very helpful for us to consider doing that at a subsequent meeting to make this an official policy, perhaps in January or sooner when we have more budget conversations. Please. Did you want to talk, Clint?
Madam Chair, I have a question for Leanne.
Oh, sorry, please, Board Member.
Thank you.
Flores.
Leanne, Ms. Demouche, and Ms. Trevino. Is this something that should be implemented as soon as possible? Is it necessary to wait for our strategic planning at the end of November, the city? Or is it separate and apart from, independent of whatever we do in terms of the city's strategic planning?
It's separate from the cities, but as
Right.
mentioned in one of the slides, usually when you use your reserve policy, which we did in 2019, you want to replenish it within 1 to 3 years, and we're past those 3 years. So it's not something you need to do tomorrow, but we do need to start looking at it
As soon
in
as possible.
January. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I sense too. And so we need to hear from Clint and Bernice to see how soon that could be done. Because I feel very strongly that we should have that 112, perhaps a 212. Not now. Okay. Everybody's shaking your head. Well, I just believe in having all these safeguards. So we'll have 3, 4. Seriously, yeah. So thank you very, very much for that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Flores.
Clint Thacker, Executive Director, Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. This is coming as a surprise to me. The presentation is a surprise. No communication has been made to me about this. With the presentation that was done, I agree that it is good to have that reserve and we can work towards it. Just so the record's straight, we had to put $705,000 of my own budget money into the new center. It was either that or we had to cut $705,000 value engineer out of the new center. So when we looked at our fund balance and we knew that money was there, that's when we decided to take the money out. So it wasn't that we didn't have it for all that time, it's that looking in the past with the transfers we've had, that we were able to access and take that out. So that's the reason why it is there. I have no problem whatsoever doing the 1/12. I think it's sound, financially responsible for us to do that. 2019 was a pretty volatile year as far as our budget goes because there was so many uncertainties of what was going to be happening with staffing and other complications. If I remember right, we had some significant purchases that needed to happen, and so that's why we lifted that and was able to make those purchases. So as a reminder, also we had commitment coming into this year, and Eric will remember this, that we were told repeatedly that whatever, we're going to roll over the fiscal year 22 budget into fiscal year 23 because our budget wasn't approved, so we're going to roll that budget over, and we were going to fiscal responsible, look into, see how much the new center was going to cost to run, the new positions we had to run, and then we were going to come to the board for a budget adjustment for the money that is needed. And so with that moving forward, as long as that's still on the record and we understand that's going to be happening, because it sounds like what is being said is that there hasn't been any fiscal responsibility happening, or responsible fiscal management, however you want to say, and I don't believe that that's the case. I believe we've been doing the best we have with what we have. So I don't have any problems with the 1/12. I think it's a sound to have that, and I like the idea that Board Member Macias had of increasing that, and we can move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't think that the suggestion is that there hasn't been sort of financial responsibility, but I do think it suggests that we need to make sure that we close any gaps in our planning and budgeting to make sure that we have a really clear picture of what we have, how we're spending it, and how much of sort of a reserve we can possibly have. So I think it gives us a really good opportunity to have some grounding for those conversations as we go forward. So. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? No? Hearing none. Next up, the executive committee meeting. We did meet on the 6th of September. We had conversations about what kinds of sort of up and coming things that will be coming to us, including the upcoming resolution and conversations about budget and the future strategic plan, which again is scheduled for November 30th. the kinds of things that we can include in that conversation as well. So we also talked a little bit about the building and the progress on the building, but I'll leave that to the Facilities Committee report, which is next. Please, Board Member Candera.
Thank you so much, Chair Curran. We meet the first Thursday of the month. Some of the discussions surrounded the retention pond and trying to figure out who is fiscally responsible. I think the city has indicated that Ascmv is responsible for the ponding. It'll be around $21,000. So when I hear this too, I want people to understand, you know, when we meet in facilities, there's always these issues with the facility because of the age of the facility, the things, you know, are breaking down. So this is really hard to say, okay, where are we going to pull this out, and then say, oh, and by the way, you have to have a 1/12, you know, reserve. So I do believe that they're doing the best that they can under the circumstances. The roof is leaking in Kennel B, and on and on and on, right? There are just so many of those things that are happening that even though this is the city's facility, they're asking Ascmv to be responsible for much of the upkeep and you know, the figuring out how to, you know, stop the leak and things of that sort. Let's see. We spoke a lot about the facility. It looks like still a completion date will be in January. A whole month has passed, so I'm looking at Clint. He's smiling, so it looks like it's still January. They're really sort of the holdup is in those cat cages, fabricating those cat cages to ensure that we have those to go ahead and the materials and stuff. And again, due to COVID and supply chain issues, that continues to be a issue. I think Clint and our project manager there is hopeful that there'll be a December date opening, but still not sure. It's again 86% completed. At this point, let me see, I'm working through my notes. Clint did indicate that Paul, Clint, and volunteer coordinator have done the walkthroughs to talk about access and pathways and what that's going to look like in that new side. And just sort of get acquainted about the area. Let's see. There is an issue with a piece of the area that needs to be cemented for cleaning purposes. It was value added out. Clint, please help me with that most specifically. So they're going to be looking at that. That will be an issue in the new facility if we do not take care of that, just given the amount of water, you know, to disinfect the place. So we need to also look at that.
Yes, what's being spoke of is the get acquainted areas. Sorry, Clint Thacker, Executive Director. Get acquainted areas at the new facility. The value engineered out was the cement, and it's going to be put on crushed rock. So the problem with crushed rock is you can't sterilize it in between dogs because it's essentially dirt. It's rock. There's no solid surface. So what we did, we went to the architects. We also had a great discussion of it in the actual meeting, where we review, every other week, we review the progress of the center, and we're able to, right now it's getting quotes. The worry is if we just made it flat or a slope to one side, that the water with small pieces of feces in it would eventually gather in the rock chips that washed off the cement. And then there'd be a smell. So then we thought, well, let's slope it in the middle, so we have drainage and it will go into the sewer. So that's right now, of course, it's going to add expense. I raised the concern in our GeoBond, the city meeting that we have once a month, and was able to get that, and I was told that it will be taken care of. So we're looking at getting quotes for that. So that is in the process of being changed.
Good. And then lastly, Clint, you made mention of a curb that is pretty high. It's not ADA, or from your perspective, ADA compliant. It feels like it's going to be a problem, and there's some discussion about putting railing and such because of how high that curbing is, and it's going into the pedestrian gate.
Yeah, so that's at the current facility. So they removed the orientation of the fence. The fence used to go north and south, and now it's done a 90-degree turn. Now it's going to go east and west. So there's a significantly high curb that's right there. We have a quote in with the contractor right now, or a requested one, for the curb or for the railing to run 12 feet down. So where it's more of a regular curb height, where it's about 14 inches high is where the one we need. And it's right by the pedestrian gate. Opens up so dogs could easily pull somebody right straight forward off that curb. And people thinking that it's a normal height curb would be severely injured on that. So
Yeah.
Right now it's coned off and have caution tape so people won't go there.
Clint, and so you said you got a quote, received a quote?
We're waiting for a
process. Okay. I would like Mr. Enriquez to look in, he's not here. Somebody take notes for Mr. Enriquez, please, Leanne, thank you. I would like for facilities to look at that and really, I know there's been that dialogue, but I would hate for an accident to occur. I think it's easily remedied, and I think it's something that the city should definitely be responsible for and to act swiftly. So with that.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, not Madam Chair, Madam Flores, Gondola, sorry, Board Member Gondola. I wanted to let you know that it's not a facilities issue. It's actually directly with our architect and the contractor, because it's a new project. Facilities, we're just waiting for the quote back and for it to get done. Mm-hmm. I believe it is safe right now. Like I said, there's big orange cones.
Caution tape. Yeah.
So I know it sounds like it, but if you were to see it, you see that it is coned off sufficiently.
But you can't have that, it's just temporary, you can't have that forever.
No, you're absolutely correct.
We need to find a solution to that.
So as soon as we get that pricing back, then we'll be able to start conversations about where it's going to come from.
Very cool. And then lastly, I always get a census count, and at that point, 484 animals. That includes dogs and cats at that point. It's probably changed now, as you know, as you saw the stats today. So thank you. I'll turn that over to you, Chair Karak.
Thank you, Board Member Candela. Thank you, Clint. Any questions from the board? All right, hearing none, thank you. We're good. Next up, that's the end of the committee reports. So, you're good, okay. We had moved the Coalition for Pets and People presentation to now. So on behalf of Action Programs for Animals, I'd invite Kathy Stark up, please. Please state your name and thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning. Kathy Stark, and I'm here today representing Action Programs for Animals. And it's been many years since I've navigated this, but we'll see if we can do it. Yeah. Okay, Bernice.
That's okay. No, I do that all the time. There it goes.
Go the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, now F5. There we go.
Okay. And thank you, Chair Cran, for the invitation to update everybody on the current situation at Action Programs for Animals. As some of you probably already know, we have a roofing problem. We moved in the building that we're in at 537 North Solano approximately 2 years ago. I think it will be 2 years in November. And we, late last year, started having a little bit of leaking problems with the roof. And so we started contacting contractors to come out and kind of assess the problem. However, on October 27th of this year, with the tremendous rains we had, the ceiling came down in our large dog room. Unfortunately, none of the dogs were injured, but it revealed, as you can see, quite a problem all the way down to the decking. Out of abundance of caution, we moved all the large dogs into boarding, and we have undertaken fundraising. Multiple bids were obtained, looking at, do we need to replace the entire thing? Can it be repaired? And as of Monday, the board selected a contractor, and the estimated cost for the roofing portion of the work is going to be $55,000. If I go by there today and they're not working, I'll be really surprised, because they were ready to just hit the ground and let's get this done. We're awaiting mold test results. All of our large dogs are in boarding, and that cost is going to be about $5,000. We did get a mold report back yesterday, and there is not, you know, you look at mold and you say, oh my gosh, it's black. It means black mold and we're all going to die. It's not toxic black mold. There is mold that can be remedied in the areas when the contractor comes out and starts working on the roof. However, we're going to keep the large dogs out of the facility because that work is right over their kennel area, and so there will be a lot of dust, a lot of noise, and containing any mold spores that are there. Then we've got interior damage. The $55,000 is going to cover the external roof problem. The insulation and the ceiling drywall will come after that, and we're getting bids on that this week. And the community has been absolutely amazing in our fundraising efforts. We are currently open. We've got, I think sometimes, you know, when you talk about there's a roof problem and there might be a mold problem, people think that we're not open for adoptions, and we are. The animals that are in the facility, given the nature of the work that will be done, are going to be able to stay in the facility, and hopefully we can find them homes. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, we've got to be very flexible in all of this. So how people can help, they can donate to our Raise the Roof Fund on Network for Good. Checks can be dropped off. People can offer to foster, adopt, or sponsor an animal, take a dog on Doggy Day Out, give the dogs a break from being in this work environment, and we remain open Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 11 to 3, and by appointment. So anybody who wants to come in and see some of the animals can just call us, and we'll be happy to accommodate them. And these are just a few of the dogs. We've got our small dogs are in-house. So if anybody's looking for a small dog, we've got some great ones. And then, of course, our cats and our kittens. We currently have, we've been able to take a few cats and kittens, mostly kittens from the shelter, but not at the rate we would typically be doing this time of year. We have approximately 40 kittens in foster care that now we're going to start trying to bring them into the facility and find them homes. And we've got some great ones. We took in the lower left-hand corner, that's Bear, and he has heartworm treatment that's being done east of Las Cruces, and so they needed a transport, and so Jerry and I said, sure, we'll take Bear over to Alamogordo and then connect him with his other transporter. And he is just a gem. He's co-pilot in the car and just gets along with everybody. So just some of the animals to keep in mind and to make sure that everybody knows we are still open. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll make it up. Just kidding.
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate you sharing this presentation and always keeping us in the loop and being a really extraordinary community member when it comes to caring for the animals. Are there any questions from the board? Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Ms. Stark, for all the work you do on behalf of animals. I just have a question. Who owns the building?
Action Programs for Animals owns the building.
Oh, so do you,
We got a bequest from Sheila Pickett.
I'm sorry, you
and
got a request?
We got a bequest, which is how we were able to purchase the
a
building.
bequest. So, but doesn't insurance cover this kind of damage to the roof? I know that when there's severe, when we had the golf ball hailstorm some years ago, that was covered by my insurance. So does it cover, did you look into that?
Yes, we did. The insurance adjuster was out and surveyed the roof. We went back and we looked at the inspection report from the point of purchase. And that inspection report, while it was very, very brief, noted that the roof needed some routine maintenance. And last year we did some patching, and so the insurance company has said, no, this is normal wear and tear and you are on your own. So this hurts. I mean, this is a huge hit for us.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And as always, again, thank you for your help. And if any of my comrades feel compelled to take out an animal to foster them and mind them while they're getting their roof worked on, or donate to APA, I hope you'll consider it. Thank you again, Kathy. All right, that's all we have for the reports and presentation section. Next up, we have our one action item that was alluded to earlier. I believe Clint has a presentation, Resolution 2022-09, which is a budget amendment for some transfers.
So we're not going to go as much as a presentation. Why does it want me to open that? Just as much as a walkthrough of what the resolution is requesting. So if you have a copy of the resolution in front of you, first of all, this is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the 2023 budget. So we need to correct the beginning fund balance that was put up originally. And then we need to transfer out of fund of 440 and into, and 441 of 705,000, and then transfer 21,000 from fund 744, 0 to 744.1, and then decrease revenues by 40,669, and increase expenses by the 259,331. It all will make sense when I work this out with you. So you can see the beginning balance of the sheet, Exhibit A, is 301,674. That is the correct beginning balance. It was incorrect when it was rolled over from the previous year because it included the $705,000 access to the fund balance that we had. Again, that $705,000 was for the fixtures and furniture and equipment for the new center. So this resolution will correct that. The next correction is to zero out that transfer of the $705,000 because it's already taken place. So you'll see that in the resolution. And that occurs right here. You see that it's been taken out. And then the $21,000, that is for what Board Member Gondara spoke of the ponding project. What we're doing is, if you remember a presentation I'd done several months ago about relocating the retention pond. When it rains, all the water drains into this pond. The pond is archaic, meaning that there's no drainage in it. We have tadpoles, which mosquitoes, which feed on our dogs that have heartworm and spreads heartworm. So we had two options, either redo the pond so it does correctly or relocate it. Because of our parking issues, I opted to relocate it. We worked with the city of Las Cruces. They put it out to bid for engineers. They're going to be moving it into our outside of our gravel parking lot area, and it'll be a longer trench instead of one big pond. But they assured me that no issues or problems, and it will be the amount of $21,000 for that to be done. So they're just waiting for that money, and then they can get started on it. So you'll see that coming in here. You'll see the $21,000 being taken out and placed into, this is our 7441, which is our capital fund. You'll see that it's being placed here into our capital fund. Now, the $300,000 that we're going to be accepting from the county, this is a kind of a book mistake that was occurred. If you remember last month, you signed a resolution accepting that $300,000. Well, on the exhibit, it only showed $300,000 on the revenue side. It didn't show any on the expense side. So now you're seeing it on this, on the expense side. So that's clearing that part up. And then on the last whereas for the $40,669, again, because the budget was rolled over into 23, it included city licensing as part of revenues. As you know, we passed a ordinance in August of last year not doing away with the city licensing. So we needed to subtract out that revenue and also the expenditures. So you see here the $259,331. That is the incoming amount shown on the, that's the incoming. We already showed on the revenue, so now we're showing it on the expenditures. But it's the $259,331 minus the $40,669. So we just took that out of the expenditure side of the $300,000. And that's why that shows the $259,331 and not the $300,000. So that is the explanation of the resolution. Are there any questions? Commissioner Sanchez, I can see the look on your face. You're like, what?
Board Member Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Thacker, I think my question comes from the fact that, I guess in terms of the expenditures, I know you're saying that we accepted the money from, and I'm trying to think over the last few months since we've entered into the new fiscal year. I know at the time, I just wanted to make sure that I know we're making the numbers match here is a kind of the general gist of it. But
yeah,
does this match the budget, the approved budget for the Ascmv, the sorry, I lost my number here, but with that additional 300,000, which puts us at, was that 4.4 million? Is that correct? That's on the revenue. Yeah. Sorry, that's the revenue. I'm looking at revenue. Sorry about that. 4.287 million under expenditures.
I was told that this is what's needed to match the budget up. Yes.
Okay.
To zero things out.
I just wanted to make sure with all the changes, and I said I just want to get verification that this does match the approved budget for the fiscal year. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion on Resolution 2022-09.
So moved. Gandara.
Move to approve.
I'll second the motion.
It was moved by Board Member Gandara and seconded by Board Member Sanchez. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Becky, please.
Board Member Macias?
Yes.
Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Chair Corran?
Yes, thank you. Up next, we move into public input. I'll start on my right. I'm not seeing any in the first few rows. Jerry? No? Please come on up and state your name for the record when you arrive, please.
Good morning, council members. My name is Renee Chavez, and I'm here to ask a couple of questions. I'm an advocate, as you know, for the animals in the shelter and the volunteers. I'm speaking on behalf of the volunteers at this point. I do have some questions. We did meet, two of our members couldn't be here today. That would be Ms. Haynes, because she had to take a training in Dallas for her job. The other member had to work. My questions at this point, Mr. Macias was very kind to meet with us, took time from his hectic schedule. We spoke extensively. He gave us the suggestion, which we tried to follow. However, we ran into some pretty heavy glitches. Those glitches were inaccurate information that we had requested. We had given the packets. I know that they were quite lengthy packages, and you all don't have time to read everything, but hopefully I'm here to focus again, that you take the time and help get the answers for us so that we can address and help and support and move with the shelter to resolve and contribute more volunteers. There are 14, as far as I know. Okay, I don't have all the accurate information right now, but there were 14 volunteers that could have helped foster some dogs with the situation, especially with APA. We've got that. I know that it's an overwhelming problem. That's why I'm here. I'm here to try to figure out a solution, best way possible, straight. Let's just, we need to get it figured out. But we didn't get all of the information. What we did receive was incomplete. We never received, I believe the girls requested the policy manual. The only thing that we received was some information, I believe, on 2010, an outdated procedural manual. No contracts, everything was incomplete, accurate information. Well, you can't base a decision, it's like a multiplication problem. If you've got the incorrect information, how do you solve it? So we need to have that information, and Council Coran, I believe you were in touch with Harriet. She didn't receive information. I don't know. I'm just here to address the fact that we need accurate information in order to respond to the suggestion you gave us so that we can work together to figure something out. Because there was a time where 7 kittens, I believe, got put to sleep, and the foster was told no, which is unnecessary because the kittens, and it's happened again and again. Well, we'd like to see that stop. It's unnecessary. The medication that it takes is inexpensive. All we need is the antibiotic. We have one foster that's a tech foster, we rescued some kittens, and she was able to save them, and they're willing to do it. So there's no reason to I understand the other ones that have to be vicious. I don't understand the timid ones, because you can make timid ones. So there's a lot of incorrect things that need to be adjusted, things that need to be corrected, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move forward with that. So if you would all please help us get this information and help us move forward together. No one is should be pinpointed for trying to help, because that's what it's about. It's all about trying to help. The gentleman that originated with this problem is still living up with those dogs in a place that is not really livable, but the dogs are safe. The man has no access, unfortunately, to electricity or to water. There's an exorbitant bill. But these fosters that have been taken out are continuing to take food, continuing to take water, and helping this man. So they turned the whole thing. And this is what we're trying to do, is just make it workable for everybody. So The other thing was, my understanding is that there's a list called Shutter Love. I think the shelter uses it, I'm not certain. I was asked to bring it up because it's got a lot of personal information, and whoever's able to access this information can access information of the people that are no longer there. So that has to be looked at as well. Now, if I can have a way to approach this, how can I work with you again? How can we move forward if we don't have the information that we need? How can you help me get that accurate information? How can we put together a procedure manual? You know, I would like to find a way to do that. If you want to hire me, I'm for hire. I'm retired, so I can help. But that's the point. We want to take care of these animals. I know that the city's overwhelmed with pressing problems. I realize that, but these animals have nobody to speak for them. We're trying. We're trying, and we're not getting back what we need. So please, again, if you will, you have my emails. If you want to write to me individually, I would welcome conversations, you know, so that we can move forward. I think pretty much that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Travis, and I appreciate your inputs.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? From the back, up here? No? No public comment? Hearing none? That's the end of public comment. On to board member comments. I will just follow up, and even though we can't respond to public comment, really quickly, I do want to say that I will follow up with Clint and Bernice to try to get you additional information as we can, and supporting your understanding of how these things can be addressed. So I will follow up with that. On a second note, I would like to just give a note to the Firefighters Union 2362, who have produced a calendar with the ASCMV. You can pre-order that calendar. All of the proceeds benefit the ASCMV, and they're also going to have a kickoff at Andale's Doghouse in November to launch the calendar that they produced. What? I know, it's super exciting. So it's a firefighter, steamy firefighter / dog calendar. I don't know if there are any cats represented, but that's what it looks like, and you can pre-order it. They're $25 on the IAFF website or Instagram. So that's my main comment. Thank you. I'll start with Board Member Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just did want to thank you to Officer Armendariz. I know last night we had a community meeting in Rincon. We had some very lively discussion about the cats and dogs that are in the area there. So hopefully, we'll start looking at it from the county perspective and trying to see what we can do. I don't know how that will in the end affect the ASCMV as we kind of move forward, but it's something we'll have to take a look at. I know they've identified at least or mentioned that there's a large colony of cats, of feral cats in that area. That's not a registered colony from my understanding, so it's something we'll take a look at, but I really appreciated everybody coming out and appreciated like I said, Officer Armendariz coming and helping with some of the initiatives that we're working on through the county animal control. And so, if there is something that ultimately comes your way, Clint, hopefully we'll be able to work with you and figure out how we can work through that. So, but appreciated everyone that came out, and it was a good, lively discussion in Rincon, which was nice. So, but just wanted to let everybody know that, like I said, we're trying to work on this. I know I think we have a lot of comments, I know, within the city on stray animals, and so when we start getting in the rural areas, we're seeing very similar things. So, but thank you all.
Thank you. I'll just move, if that's okay, Chair Curran. Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez for those comments. I think we all are seeing an uptick in loose animals, and more specifically feral cats. I've had a couple of neighborhood meetings specific to the Tree Streets area, and specific to our Lift Up program, and they're mentioning an increase in loose animals as well. And I've talked with Mr. Peedley about doing a sort of 2-week canvassing with codes and animal codes officers to address some of those issues, and mostly to provide education to the community. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more. I know Mr. Peely there's a sort of like a committee of staff that are looking into this and trying to decide what next steps are going to be. And so that's certainly on my radar as well. And then I'll work to look for an email. Ms. Chavez, I don't see the email right off the bat. I think you've emailed a few months ago, and I don't have those saved up. And I'm asking Clint and Bernice to look at that and to be as accommodating. If there are IPRAs that have been made, that we make sure that we get that information to you, and that we work diligently to do what we can to make the stay of the animals safe and secure, and to keep from having to euthanize those animals. But I also think that I'm challenging each of the advocate groups. It really is about responsible pet ownership. We don't see enough of that. Sometimes we point the fingers at each other, but really what we need to be doing is educating our community about responsible pet ownership, because we see a lot of irresponsibility related to that, and not enough information out there. Specifically, I know some of the groups are working on training, or going to the schools and training the young generation, the young kids. That's really where, we as parents are learning a lot of that information. And so I would ask that you work with Clint to provide that kind of training and information, be it social media and other avenues, because I think really until we become more responsible pet owners, these efforts are sort of in vain, because you see the numbers month after month after month, and the center can only do so much. And you heard a whole lengthy agenda item about a 1/12 reserve and all the competing demands that we have that prevent us from doing that. And so we want to be fiscally responsible. The center can only do so much, and so can the volunteer programs. So I've always tried to say it's a shared responsibility, and we need to continue to assert that pet owners need to be responsible. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Off my soapbox, sorry.
Thank you, Board Member Gandara. Board Member Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, just working off of what Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, or Board Member Gandara, just said, I think maybe would it be possible, Clint, to coordinate something with LCPS to maybe have presentations, a volunteer group that you can get? I know I'd be willing. I'm sure people up here, other board members, would be willing to go into a classroom and talk about responsible pet ownership. How does that sound? Sound like something we can kick around? Yeah, because I think it's a great idea, and that's where it begins, because I know that in other, quote, movements, such as climate change, it's really working when you go in and talk to children about how important it is, because then they go home and say, well, mom, dad, or grandma and grandpa, whoever they're with, will say, shouldn't we, do this or that regarding, climate change issues. But so great. So that's all that was my only comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Clint, Bernice.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. Board Member Macias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no comments to make.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Enriquez. No comments. Board Member Ward. All right, thank you. No comments. Hearing no further comments from the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Gandara.
Second, Flores.
It's been moved by Board Member Candela, seconded by Board Member Flores. Becky, please, and thank you.
Board Member Macias.
Yes.
Board Member Flores.
Yes.
Board Member Gandara.
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Chair Curran.
Yes, we are adjourned.